This example is on graphs of trigonometric functions. So example 1, it says find A, the amplitude, B, the midline equation, C, the range, D, the maximum value, E, the minimum value, F, the period of each of the following functions in terms of pi. You can see already, my advice is to go through the PowerPoint first of all, and you'll be able to see what most of these actually mean. I'm going to explain them in a bit of detail, but if you go through the PowerPoint and you go through the actual visualization of them, you'll be able to answer these questions a bit more. Okay, so the first of all is the amplitude. So the amplitude is all to do with the angle here. So the amplitude is, for this one, is 2. So the amp is equal to 2. The next one is the midline equation. So the midline equation means where it's actually going to start, or where the middle of the function is. So that's always going to be, if there's a number in front of it, it's going to be that number, or if there's no number in front of it, it's just going to be 0 itself. So for the midline equation for this one is 3. Part C then is for the range. So the range means the highest value and the lowest value. Now if the midline equation is 3, it's going up and down by 2 each way. So that means the lowest value is going to be 3 minus 2, which is equal to 1. The highest value is going to be 3 plus 2, which is equal to 5. So that means the range is between 1 and 5. And what we always do for these ones here is use your close brackets for them. Part D then is the maximum value. So the maximum value, which we can already see here, is 5. Then part E is the minimum value. The minimum value is the other one, which is 1. And then finally, the period is of each of the following functions in terms of pi. It's going to be 2 pi, which is a general function, and then we're going to divide by 2 since there's a 2 here. Okay, since there's a 2 there, and that means the period is pi. What that actually means, it's going to repeat every pi. So every 180 degrees, that function is going to repeat. Then we move on to our second one. Same kind of idea, exact same questions. First one is going to be based on the amplitude first of all. So the amplitude for this one here is going to be 1. And the amplitude is 1 since there is no number here in front of the sin x. Second one then is the midline equation. This equation here. So the midline equation here starts at 4. So that means that the midline equation is going to be 4. Like I said for the previous one, if there's going to be no number here at all, that means then it's going to just start at 0. But for these questions, there is a start point. Then next up we have the range. So the range is going to be the highest value minus the lowest value. Since there's no number in front of this here, it's going to be 1. So it's going to be 4 minus 1, which is equal to 3, which is going to be the lowest value. And then for the highest value, it's going to be 4 plus 1, which is equal to 5. So that means the range for this one here is going to be between 3 and 5. And then that automatically answers our next two questions. Part D, which is the maximum value, which is going to be 5. E is the minimum value, which is going to be 3. And then the last but not least, we have the period of it. So the period is all to do with this here. So it's going to be 2 pi. A general function repeats every 2 pi, a general sine function. And we're going to divide it by 6 since it's going to be, there's a 6x here. And then we divide that, and that means this one is going to be pi over 3. So that means the period is pi over 3. It repeats every pi over 3. Then we will move on to the last one, part 3. Again, same questions. First one is for the amplitude. So the amplitude for this one here is going to be 4. Then we have the next one. We have part B, which is the midline equation. You can see here it's going to start at minus 1. Then we have the range. Okay, so it's going to be 4 in front of this. So it's going to be plus or minus 4 from the minus 1. So it's going to be minus 1 plus 4 for the highest point, and minus 1 minus 4 for the lowest point, which is minus 5. So the range of this one here is between minus 5 and 3. And then for the next one, it says the maximum value is going to be 3, since we know that here already. The minimum value is going to be minus 5. And then this time, it's going to be repeated. It's going to be 2 pi, and this time instead of dividing, it's going to be divided by whatever number is in front of the x here, which is a half. So that means this one is going to be repeated every 4 pi. So it's actually going to be stretched out much wider than you would expect. What I'm going to do as well, you can actually see the link where you can graph these functions yourself, so at least you'll be able to visualize what exactly they look like. Moving on to example 2, it says part of a sine graph is shown. We have to find the midline value, the amplitude, and the period. Okay, we can do all of this just by looking at the graph. Okay, so the first one, first of all, the midline value, we're looking to get, we can see the highest point is the y value 2.5, the lowest point is the y value 0.5, so the amplitude, or sorry, the midline equation is going to be the one right in the middle of that. If you want to actually calculate it, you can add the two together and divide by 2, or you might just be able to work that out just by looking at the graph. You can see the midline value is 1.5. Moving on to the second one, we're talking about the amplitude. So the amplitude is how far away we are away. You can actually just draw the midline equation in here. How far away the highest point is away from this here. So to work it out, if you like, you can go 2.5, take away 1.5 because that's where the midline equation is, and our answer is 1. So that's what the amplitude is. And then the last one, what we're looking for is the period. So period stands for how long it takes to actually repeat itself. So we can, it's easier if I actually just write it up here. So we can see that it repeats itself from this point all the way down and back up again. So that would be the period, but we can't find the exact figure because we don't know this number here. But if we wanted to, we could actually find out what half of it is, and then we're just going to times it by 2. So the difference between minus 2.4 and 2.4 is going to be 4.8. And then if we times that by 2, we'll be able to find the period. So we times that by 2, and our answer is 9.6. So that will be able to get us our period. The third example we'll move on to here is about the following function. Okay, so we have a water wave represented by y is equal to 3 plus 4 sine 2t, approaches the bank represented by the y-axis. Okay, so all we have here is the y-axis. We don't exactly know where the x-axis is. It says find the coordinates of the points A, C, and E on the y-axis. Now, automatically, what a lot of people would think there straight away, because they've drawn this here axis, you would automatically think that point is 0, 0. But the one thing to be careful with, that is the point where the function actually starts. We know by looking at this here already, we know that the midline is actually 3. So that coordinate is the y coordinate of 3, and it has an x coordinate of 0. So that point is 0, 3. We also know from this here that it's going to go up and down by 4. So this is going to be 4 places up from 3. This one here is going to be 4 places down from 3. So that means A is going to have coordinate 0 first of all, and E is going to be the same. The x coordinate is 0, but the other one is going to be 3 plus 4, which is going to be 7. And over here we've got 3 minus 4, which is equal to minus 1. For the second part of the question, it says find the period of the graph, and we'll not worry about the hence part yet. So it says find the period of the graph. In order to do that, it's going to be 2 pi, because that's the general one that we have already, and then it's going to be divided by the number in front of the variable here. So you're going to divide it by 2, and that means it's going to be repeated every pi. So that means this full wave here, to get back to this point, is a distance of pi. What we have to do next then for the final part of the question is to find the coordinates of the maximum and the minimum points, so h and I. So if we know this full revolution here is pi, then to get this far, it's going to be a quarter of that, since it's split into 4 quarters, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that means this point here has an x value of a quarter of pi, so that means it is an x value of pi over 4. And we already know it has a y value of 7 since it is a maximum. And then to find the coordinates of I, you can see that it's going to be 3 quarters of pi. So that means it's going to be 3 pi over 4. and then it has a minimum value this time, same as E, so it has a minimum value of -1. So the coordinates H and I are those two.